the next conversation we want to have is on impeachments. Okay. So recently we were treated to a revision of the drama in the Senate.
Reoccurrence.
The recurrence of the drama in the Senate with the second round impeachment of Governor of Meru County, Kawira Mwangaza. Okay. And we saw what was presented by the county assembly. We talked to some of the representatives of the county assembly even before the matter went to the Senate. We saw what was being presented in the Senate. One of the advocates that was in the team that was for Kawira Mwangaza is Elisha Ongoya. He is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya and a senior lecturer at Kabarak University. He's our guest. Good morning, Okili.
Good morning, Eric. How are you?
Very well.
Yes.
Welcome to Kenya's hot seat.
Thank you so much.
Now, City has the day's proverb, and this week's proverbs are from
Namibia. Yes. The Republic of Namibia.
Please remind us the name of the president.
He's called Hage Geingob. Now, I am reading it as it is written. If it's called Hage, that is okay, but it's written Hage.
Hage Geingob.
Yes, Geingob is written Geingob, Geingob. Can't pronounce it any other way. If there's another way it's pronounced, I will be informed, but I'm reading it as it is. Then he has a vice president. It's called Nangolo. Why are you guys sniggering? So why don't you let me read the name?
Go on. Please, carry on.
Okay? Mbumba.
Sure.
Mbumba. Mbumba. Then you have the Prime Minister, Nangolo, that's the VP. Prime Minister is called Sarah Kavunagelwa. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Then you also have
the Chief Justice.
No, the deputy Prime Minister. Yes, the Deputy Prime Minister is called Metumbo Nandi. Simple, straightforward name. Then you have the Chief Justice. Now him, simple, straightforward name. It's called Peter Sivute.
You see?
Okay. None of these heavy duty African names with alliterations. Just Peter Sivute.
The law is very clear.
Yes.
What's the proverb then?
The proverb is a little rain each day will fill the rivers to overflowing.
Okay, what's the proverb?
The proverb, this is what happens
when it rains.
The proverb for today is a little rain will fill the rivers to overflow.
A little rain will fill the rivers.
Each day. Just
a little rain each day
will fill the rivers to overflowing. Okay.
Wakili Elisha, what's your interpretation of this proverb? I mean, it sounds pretty obvious, doesn't it?
You know, one of the things I fear the most is that I'll be asked to interpret a proverb because I have never interpreted proverbs in my lifetime. But it would be the equivalent of what the Swahili say, haba na haba hujaza kibaba.
See? A man who interprets proverbs so accurately is afraid to interpret proverbs. As you put it, the law is simple.
It's very clear.
Very clear.
Very clear.
It's very, very clear. Wakili, we saw you on our TV sets and you were in the Senate. For whom were you acting?
Well, I was doing what I do for a living.
Teaching.
I keep reminding everybody that, I don't roast maize on the roadside for a living. I do precisely that. Not in a cleaner job. It's actually a dirtier job than any other job you can imagine. But I was privileged to be retained by Kawira Mwangaza's legal team to lead them in prosecuting her case.
To lead the legal team?
Yeah, to lead the legal team.
What does that mean?
There's a way the profession works. Legal profession is that different people have different specializations, like another profession, of course. And therefore, there is a moment when you can call on a lawyer of particular seniority to lead you in a particular case or in a particular aspect of a particular case. So, courtesy of my years of investment in constitutional litigation and considering the constitutional attributes in impeachment process, I was called upon to lead the legal team. The legal team had 8 lawyers and 1 legal assistant. So I was called in to lead these 7 lawyers and 1 legal assistant. So I was the lead counsel in that matter.
Yes. Have you participated in a previous impeachment?
No. This was the first impeachment. There have been 14 impeachments of governors in this country. This is the 14th, actually. since the inception of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. So I haven't been in the other 13. So I was in the 14th.
So finally, you got the chance to actually now test this part of the Constitution.
Yes, it's an area I have researched in. I have
course.
written on. So I guess that's partly why I was consulted in the matter. It's an area I've taught on. I have researched on. I have done presentations on in other events. So I guess that's how I was called upon to play.
Did your research much experience? The experience of it all?
Not, I mean, I guess there's no point when research completely matches experience. Research helps in testing the experience, but there's no point in time when research completely matches experience. Young people teach me on the ground that reality that on the ground things are different. So the experience is on the ground. But we thank God that at the end of it all, our argument prevailed. Yes.
What's your outlook? Let's look at impeachment as an overarching principle in the country today. On one side of it, it would look as though it's being used as a tool for political conflict. On the other side, safeguard of the Constitution to make sure that individuals don't go into excesses. How do you see it being practiced or coming to life in Kenya today, before we get into the details?
To understand impeachments, you must understand power generally. When I was a young university student, I was taught law by Professor J.B. Ojwang. And those were the days when people were clamoring for the removal of the KANU establishment and the Moi regime. And Professor Ojwang was a fairly, if I may, conservative jurist. He used to tell, people used to say, let's amend the constitution, let's reduce presidential power. And he told us oftentimes that this is a very simplistic argument. Every time you give somebody functions, you must give that person power to perform those functions. So that the clamor for reduced presidential power as if it's an end in itself is naive. That power must vest somewhere. You can't remove power and throw it into the ocean. That power must vest somewhere. And power can be abused wherever vested. The fact that you are removing it from the president does not immunize it from abuse. Wherever you will vest it, it can be abused there. And therefore, he advocated for a more wholesome view of how we look at power. That if you disperse power, you must disperse functions as well, because power can't be allowed to idle. Number two, it's also the nature of power that it must be exercised by human beings. And all philosophers taught us that if governments were run by angels, if all men were angels, then there would be no need for government. We need government because men are not angels. Sadly, it is those men who are not angels who constitute government. And that's the obscenity of the whole situation. And government therefore becomes what we call a necessary evil. Government is actually essentially an evil. But that evil is necessary. Because if you allow human beings to run their affairs without this evil, then the outcome will be tragic.
More evil will prevail.
So impeachments must be viewed in that context, that we have reached a condition, a situation in human relations where we have agreed that power must check power. When you vest power in a particular office, you must vest another power to check this power. Only power checks power. So a number of things have happened in our design of the Constitution. We have created offices and vested those offices with certain immunities and certain powers. For example, we established the office of judge. And we say the nature of the work of a judge is that it must be conducted without external interference. So how do you guarantee this? One of the things you do is to give that judge security of tenure. We tell him, you do what you have got to do because you are guaranteed your term of office up to the time you get 74 years. But then you realize that this judge is not an angel. He or she too can abuse power. So you qualify that guarantee. Because that judge, you have security of tenure, but security of tenure during good behavior. So that you have secure, good behavior tenure. And so we also elect the president and say, no, you are guaranteed a term of 5 years once elected, with a possibility of renewal for a further 5 years. But again, this 5 years is guaranteed subject to good behavior. Then a question arises, what do we do in the event of bad behavior? you must provide a remedy. If you provide a right without a remedy, then that right is hollow. So the remedy in this circumstance say, look, the process of getting a governor or a president in office is through popular mandate. But the economics of popular mandate is too expensive. By the time you go to elections and get somebody into office, is an extremely costly affair. So if removing them has to go through the same process, it is not sustainable. Ideally, that's the way it should be. Ideally, if we are living in a perfect space, then to remove this person, we possibly have to go through the same process. But you can imagine the cost implications. It's actually unsustainable. So we go for the second better alternative through use of delegated mandate to say this popular mandate that we exercise gives us delegates, members of parliament, senators, MCS. So we can now use delegated sovereignty to exercise this removal from office. So that is the way in which this power is checked, the power of the governor through the impeachment process. There are multiple other prescriptions in the law for checking the powers of governors, the executive functions of governors. But impeachment is just one of them. It's actually the ultimate. It must be used as a last resort. It's a last resort. Because there are other lesser restrictive measures that I will allude to in the course of this conversation. So this is a last resort. When you are completely incorrigible, then we remove you from office. Otherwise, as I've said, there are other methods that we can check the governor.
Let's go to those ones.
Yes. One, you know very well that we go to court every day and challenge presidential actions.
Yes.
So we don't remove the president. You appoint somebody, we just go to court and quash that appointment. And that's it. You just remain in office, but your appointee has been removed. That's a method of checking you. We have power. The power of the judiciary has checked presidential power, has checked the governor's power. Parliament makes laws. We just go to court and nullify them for being unconstitutional. We have checked parliament's power. We have not recalled parliamentarians. So this is one. Number two, you know that the governor needs resources to run his or her government. And to get these resources, you must get approval of these resources by the county assembly through the budget process. So that's another way. You can just refuse to approve the budget if you discover that the manner in which the resources are being appropriated is not consistent with the aspirations of the county in question. Number three, you have things such as the Auditor General periodically comes and just audits the books of accounts of the county. And by law, the Auditor General must submit their reports of county audits to the county assembly and the national parliament, all of them without exception. So that's another way. You have the controller of budget. The controller of budget must check the manner in which resources are removed from the county revenue fund. Before you use the budget, this withdrawal of money, this use of this money for paying salaries and so forth must be approved by the controller of budget. So these are methods through which power is checked that are less restrictive. By the time you go to removing somebody from office, this person must be incorrigible. And this is the case we made before the Senate. That if I came to this studio and wanted to nitpick, I would find errors this morning, just from the things you have done here. I'll find that there are protocols laid down by this organization that if I were technical, I'll pick one or two that you have already breached. That's not a ground for removing you from office. There could be just internal memos that can be circulated here to tell you how we can do things better. Or just peer meetings among yourselves to review each other after this meeting to say, no, tomorrow we are going to do things differently. By the time we come to terminating your services here, you must be incorrigible. That's the point that we are making. So we, as the governance team, didn't think that the assembly had proved incorrigibility. Fortunately for us, the Senate agreed with us.
Wakil.
Yes.
I like this word.
Yes.
Incorrigible.
Yes.
What is it?
You are beyond repair by the conventional, lesser restrictive methods. You can't be repaired by those ones. You have shown
put it in Lake Israeli Kwisha.
So then, based on that, are you essentially saying that the motions of impeachment that we've seen wielded, the last 14, then essentially is akin to using a sledgehammer to kill a mosquito?
Out of the 14 impeachments that have reached the Senate, we're talking about that that have reached the Senate. The ones that have been attempted at county government level, I think I lost count.
There are quite a number.
There are quite a number. I suspect every county assembly throws some impeachment threat at a governor at some point in time. But the ones that have reached Senate were 14. Out of those 14, only 3 have been approved by Senate, 11 have not been approved by Senate. They have failed the standard. There are other perspectives I'll reflect on as we get along, but we discovered Senate has two options when you present an impeachment motion before it. One, it can subject the matter to an investigation by an 11-member committee. Or two, it can investigate the matter as a whole house. Before Kawira, there had been 13 impeachment attempts at Senate. Out of those 13, 3 had been considered by the whole house, and 10 had been sent to the committees. All the 10 that were sent to the committee stage never saw the light of day. They were disapproved. The 3 that had been considered by the whole house had been approved, which is why we were a bit apprehensive. You know, those of you who are soccer fans, you know, statistics count. When the Senate approved a consideration by the whole house, of course, that statistic was against the governor because of previous history. But again, as a person in the position I occupied, is you marshal your team and tell them, you know what, we have a role to play. Our role is to make the best case possible out of the situation. Then the decision maker is somebody else.
Never give up.
Never give up.
However, this body called the Senate, all right, as it's getting the report from the county assembly and being told this is what the county assembly has brought forth as charges for impeaching a certain governor. What is their role? Is there just simply a political role, or do they have some legal mandate?
Yes. Fortunately for us, a number of matters involving impeachments of governors have found their way through the courts. And now our courts, by design of our constitution, are the ultimate interpreters of the constitution. The ultimate. All of us are interpreters of the constitution, even you. As you sit here, you look at Article 34 and say, there is something called media rights. What are my rights within this framework? You are interpreting it, but your interpretation is not ultimate. The ultimate interpretation is that given by the court. So courts have given us guidance on this matter. The role of the Senate is quasi-judicial. It's judicial. So the Senate is a trial forum. It's a forum where you go for a hearing, and the Senate is supposed to apply its mind to a constitutionally prescribed criteria that the charges must pass a particular threshold before the Senate approves them. Now, Senate can approve charges that don't pass that criteria. Just like any power user or person vested with power can abuse power. But the advantage we have is that the decision of the Senate is itself subject to judicial review. You can carry it to court and ask, Senate has said this ground past this threshold. Was Senate right or wrong in making that determination? And sometimes courts agree and set aside or quash Senate's approval.
But then you see, when a matter is before court, the judicial officer will have to justify the reason for holding or disapproving what's been brought before them. Senate doesn't have that. The Senate only has to vote. And the individual votes of the Senate don't have to come with a reason. I don't have to explain why I'm saying yes to impeach or no.
Correct. There are two, well, that's partly correct. What you've said is partly correct. It's partly wrong. If Senate resolves to take the impeachment trial to an 11-member committee, the committee must generate a committee report. A report must have reasons. So that's why a lot of us who control this prefer the committee way, because there's a report. There's something you can look at and say, well, here I think, they understood me. Here they got me wrong. When it goes through plenary, there is no opportunity for a report. There is a vote. But even when there is a vote, there is an assumption that that vote is based on the logic, on the grounds advanced, on the evidence in support of those grounds, and also taking into account on the objections to those grounds and the evidence in support of the defense against those grounds. Yes.
There is a document we keep hearing called the Hansard.
Yes.
What does it do exactly?
A Hansard is just a verbatim record of what happens in Senate.
So now, can that record not be used to cobble up a report?
You know, at the end of it all, once the vote is taken, there's no report in the sense in which I'm referring to a report. You know, when a committee prepares a report, it's an actual document called a report. But
is the report not a factor of the deliberations?
It is.
Yes. and there's an analysis and then some conclusion.
Yes.
But when people vote,
Yes.
is that vote not a conclusion of the deliberations?
Well, when the speaker reads count one in the full sitting of Senate, as happened in Kawira's case, people go onto their machines and pass a vote.
Yep.
No one in their vote says, I am voting because I'm convinced by this argument that Ongoya made, they just vote. Unlike in the committee way, where people will say, we received the following arguments for. We received the following arguments against. We believed this argument for the following reason. So that's the report that I'm talking about. So technically, yes.
But
the Hansard,
before the depressing of that button, whether it's red, green, or yellow,
there's some debate.
Thank you.
Yes.
But not by every member.
Yes.
But it is by choice. I mean, are members prohibited from proferring an opinion?
They are not. They are not prohibited in the sense in which you use it, but because of time constraints, they could be. There are people who can
may not catch the speaker's eye.
Yes, that's it. Or even if you catch the speaker's eye, but there are so many people because nowadays it's technology, and he picks the first 5, and the rest of the 42 of you didn't get a chance. That's as far as it goes. Unlike the committee where you actually retreat, you are booked somewhere where you deliberate. Your only business to deliberate, where everybody will have their voice heard. You generate a draft report. People reread it to confirm that, no, we can correct that and so forth. After the time they come up with a formal report. So I still suggest that we need to reconsider.
Okay.
Yes.
Allow me. Forgive me. I keep interrupting you.
Yes.
This time that isn't enough.
Yes.
How can it be increased? Because we were saying there's only time for 5.
Yes.
Can we increase this time so that at least?
We can. If you followed my final submissions in Kawira Mwangaza's case, I proposed a reform of the rules of the House so that we have more time. First, that time is there in the standing orders of the House, and Parliament can amend the standing orders at a point in time. Number 2, the advantage we have is that we have now tested this thing. You know, when you make rules in abstract, you may think 2 days, 3 days are adequate. This time round, by the way, things were made worse. We were supposed to have 3 days before Senate. On the 3rd day coincided with the president's address to the Johnson of Parliament. So it was removed. So what we were supposed to do in 3 days was squeezed in 2 days. Now, again, you see, those are circumstances beyond your control. They just coincided with the 2 events. And they are both important events. The law prescribes from the time the impeachment by the county assembly happens, the flow of events up to the time the Senate finishes its proceedings. On the other hand, the Constitution provides the president's address to the joint sitting of Parliament, and the 2 coincided. And therefore, they had to remove 1 day. And therefore, that time can be increased by parliamentary interventions. We are hoping that the senators who are directly affected because their voice was not heard are in a vantage position to propose amendments to the standing orders of the House, so that time is enhanced. We're also hoping that those of us, I sitting here, one of them, you'll exercise our power to petition Parliament and say, look, we have now tested this process of yours and it's punitive. Let us see how we can enhance
how
this
else we can do this.
Yes.
Okay, there are several things that you've said this morning, more than once.
Yes.
We have tested this thing.
Yes.
We have tested this thing. And now maybe it's about time we start having a conversation about what's our experience now with the impeachment process. And also you talked about, it's power versus function and safeguarding those things by having systems of checks and balances. Let me begin by asking, because we've heard this several times from several quarters, do you think county assemblies are abusing their power or have gotten to a point where there have been instances of abusing their power to check the county executive through impeachment?
Yes. There's an old French philosopher called Baron de Montesquieu who taught us that constant experience teaches us that every person vested with power is apt to abuse that power and to carry on with that abuse until they are met with checks. And therefore, it's not unusual for me to say that, yes, in certain circumstances, county assemblies have abused their power to impeach governors. And how the justification is not hard to come by, because if out of 14 attempts that have reached Senate, only 3 have gone through, what does that tell us about what Senate's own view has been over the manner in which county assemblies have used that power in the 11 or so other attempts. And remember, I'm not talking about those that have not reached Senate. We know even from just media reports, there are many circumstances where members of county assemblies tell governors that you either give us this or else,
or we
will remove you. Now, the power of impeachment was never meant to be used as a tool of bargain by county assembly for anything. Why do I say this? The Constitution specifies the grounds for impeachment. Specifies. Says that there must be gross violation of the Constitution. There must be serious reason to believe that the governor has committed a crime under national or international law. There must be abuse of office or gross misconduct, or the governors must be laboring under such physical and mental infirmity that he is now incapable of discharging the functions of office. Those are the only grounds that the Constitution recognizes. Now, I have posed this question before. I'll pose it here. Why not just violation of the Constitution? Why not just reason to believe that the governor has committed a crime? Why does the lawmaker or the drafter insist on gross violation of the Constitution? Gross misconduct. Why not just misconduct? It tells you that the framer of the law begins by appreciating that to assume the office of governor, to go to that office is serious business. First, it is exercise of the people's sovereignty as specified in Article 1 of the Constitution. And that exercise of people's power should not be easily interfered with by delegates. So that if a delegate has to step in, and by delegates I mean members of the Senate and members of county assemblies who exercise delegated power from the people, it must be a higher threshold because they are undoing an act of the people, a sovereign act. It should not be done easily. So if you come across circumstances where members of county assemblies say, we are broke and we want you, the governor, to give us a retreat so that we can get per diems, then the governor says, I have no money for a retreat, then we are going to impeach you. That clearly is never the intention of the drafter of this law. And where those kind of things have happened, that clearly has been abuse. Does that make this power unnecessary? No. The power remains innocent. The power is an important safeguard in our constitutional architecture. So the power must remain. But I keep reminding Kenyans this, and I'll remind you in this studio and other Kenyans out there, that the law is not an answer to all our problems.
No.
The answer to a bulk of our problems just lies in good manners. Let's just also get good-mannered people in the correct spaces. Life will be more palatable.
Well, that's interesting that you say that.
Yes.
Because members of the county assembly then would argue, and not just in the case of Meru, but other parts where an impeachment motion then has been suggested or preferred, that these bad manners that you speak of then comes out in full glow, public display, and it is for that reason that they feel it would then meet the threshold then envisaged by the Constitution. Does that play a role? Because if we're talking about the law and we're talking about just good behavior, good behavior, or that office demands a threshold for good behavior.
Correct.
And for them, they see, the behavior then that you exhibit is not what that position has demanded over and over and over again.
Correct.
And then because of that, we see no option but to then suggest the motion for impeachment.
That's exactly what the Constitution anticipates. Constitution says if you are ill-mannered and your ill manners become egregious, then they reach the level of gross violation of the Constitution, gross misconduct. So that's what the law anticipates, actually. But in these circumstances where people are using it as a bargain, it is actually those bargainers who are ill-mannered. Then they say, okay, we are going to clothe our ill manners by an aura of constitutional argument and say you have abused office or you have grossly violated the Constitution and we are going to impeach you. Now, that is abuse of power on the part of those who are carrying out the impeachment. So I make an important argument here that the impeachment power is an important power in our legal design. It's important. Members of county assemblies, the Senate must retain this power. We can rework the way it is exercised for efficiency purposes and so that it's not abused. But the fact of this power, the essence of this power is not impeachable, it's not questionable.
It is an important power.
It's an important power. The only thing we need to constantly be on the lookout for is potential abuse of this power. There's something those of us who teach constitutional law insist to our students, that in a democracy, the law, what the law provides in its text is just an architectural plan. An architectural plan is not a building. However beautiful it looks, it's actually useless in itself. It's just a piece of paper. The real guarantee of the ambience that this architectural plan provides is something we call eternal vigilance. The people's consistent being on the lookout so that they guard against that abuse. That is the guarantee. That is the real bond that the people have for good governance and good government. So, yes, just to come back to your question, there have been instances when members of county assemblies have abused this power. Fortunately, because of the two-tier impeachment process, where the county assembly has to approve the motion and then the Senate has to relook at it, there has been checking power, which is what I told you earlier.
Is it fortunate or unfortunate? Because there are those that would argue that then also the Senate has abused its power and privilege.
Yes.
By just completely disregarding any form of logical argument that's been brought before it, and just going by political decisions.
Certainly, there have been
or other inducements.
Yes, there have been those instances. I mean, I have reviewed, in the preparation for this case, I reviewed the impeachment process for a gentleman called Waititu. You may like him or hate him, but I can assure you that if you subject his impeachment to a rigorous scrutiny, there is more than meets the eye. You look at it and you keep saying, I've invested quite a bit of years in studying this branch of learning, and therefore when I subject to that test, it's not a casual subjection I'm giving it. You may dislike Waititu for other reasons or other grounds out there, but I'm talking about the case that was presented to Senate. Look at this case and say this case on this ground was approved. Then you begin having question marks about the manner in which that power is abused. Anyone can abuse power. I began by pointing this out to you, the lessons I gathered from Professor J.B. Ojuang, that this thing of saying, no, let's remove power from this office is naive. Wherever you vest that power can be abused there. And even the ultimate office, even when you say, the manner in which Senate does this can be challenged in court, even that court can abuse power. Then, of course, there's an appellate process. The High Court can abuse it. Then you appeal to the Court of Appeal. It can abuse it. But then there's the Supreme Court that is final.
Can they also abuse it?
Yes, they can abuse power. They can abuse power. There are scholars who have reviewed our Supreme Court and concluded that there's abused power multiple times. And it's just the nature of human power. That's why I suggested to you people, there's no substitute for good manners.
Good manners is the ultimate.
Yes, the ultimate is finally, mama alikuambia tabia mbaya. Jana tabia mbaya. That one. Yes, we must also reflect on that for a while. I have argued that this country is in dire need of good manners more than strict adherence to the rule of law in and of itself.
It's a conversation we'll be having in the next hour with the chairman of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Ethics and values. Now, there are some governors and even legislators who have proposed an amendment to the way we approach impeachment. Some of them have said, let's safeguard a governor to come into office. First of all, learn the here, 2/4 of the office. I mean, and just get to understand this office. So don't impeach a governor before a certain time is over. And then also look, towards an election, why are you impeaching a governor? Now, surely a deputy governor will come in and maybe they'll run this office for 6 months. So also, before an election, let's also have a safeguarded window, this and that. What's your view on this?
I mean, law reform is a very strange thing. Anyone who believes that the guarantee for better life is more law is naive. I've told people that. What do I do if I elect a governor today and we say you can't impeach him in the first 6 months? Then he goes to the marketplace with a firearm and begins shooting everybody. What do we do with him? Day 2 in office. We would begin crying that we need a formula to remove this fellow from office. Day 2 in office. So that whereas a lawmaker sees one aspect of the problem once it is tested and sees it clearly, sometimes they forget that by looking at you as I'm looking at you, I have turned my eyes against the backside of my head. I'm not seeing another facet of the same problem. And when that other facet presents itself, you say, good gracious, we thought we knew what the problem was. We turned our eye against the worst part of that problem. My take is not that we immunize a governor who is 1 day office from impeachment or who is 1 month office from impeachment. Is that we use the impeachment hour correctly, whether it's day 1 or on the last day. If we did that, all these fears would go. If a member of the county assembly can misuse impeachment power when a governor is 2 months old in office, nothing stops him from misusing that power when a governor is 2 years old in office, assuming that you open up the window after 2 years. So the real recourse is dealing with this abuse of the power rather than saying, no, if we insulate them for the first 6 months or the first 1 year, then so what? The abuse of that power will start once you open the gates after the lapse of that 1 year, and that is not very beneficial. I insist, there's no substitute for good manners.
For good manners.
We elect our governors, we elect our MCS, our MPs to exercise power correctly. More often than not, they honor that requirement in breach.
So there's something you're not saying, Elisha. So in these cases, the argument is not whether or not this individual did the thing that they have been accused of. That's not the argument. The argument here is whether these charges met the threshold then, and whether this impeachment as a power then is being abused. It is not whether there is a case on whether the road was named after whom, because these are the things that were brought. It is not whether indeed money was lost or not. You're not arguing that, because that could be a totally different thing if it actually did happen. What you're saying is that this is the measure. It has not reached here, and it should not be at this impeachment process. If those things did take place, use other avenues to challenge that. But this impeachment, again, coming to the fact that it's being abused for what it can actually do. Because I think there's a confusion there that we seem to say, well, if it is alleged that somebody has done 1, 2, 3, up until 7, that was the number of counts. The fear is that, okay, how are we ever going to get this person possibly charged and or punished for this thing? We take it to impeachment, and then there's Elisha Ongoya who's saying, well, that's great, but you've not met the threshold, so everybody pack your bags and go. You see?
Yes. The argument is both. In some circumstances, there are allegations that are just plainly false. I mean, you remember I made an argument in Senate that, when you say I've named a road after Okondo, take me to Nairobi and say a road is something physical. A road is not in the mind. A road is not abstract. Yes, take us to the road and tell us this road that starts from Standard Group to Panari is now called Okondo. Take us that road. Don't tell us that somebody put some mischievous post on her Facebook post. I mean, that's elevating jokes to new heights, if you sought my opinion. A road is just a road. We can't engage Senate on what people talked about their spouses on their social media posts. People say all sorts of things about their spouse on the social media posts. If you engage with those ones, the world will come to a close. So that's number one. Then the second one is, on the other occasions, is let's meet the threshold. For example, you take me through the accounts of this organization. Then you say, no, there's a voucher system, an impress system here. The voucher must be signed by everybody. Oh, one of these vouchers is not signed by somebody. Well, there's a procedure of surcharge. I can just surcharge you for this money and we clear this. In fact, the Public Finance Management Act is very clear on if you don't account for an imprest, we just surcharge you in the next month. So that unless there is complete pilferage, that you can see a systemic pilferage, the fact that there's one imprest unaccounted for. If you walk through government and you say for every department where there's an imprest not accounted for,
the thing will shut
somebody
down.
Must go home. Everyone will go home. The nature of an accounting system is, I've never come across an auditor who audits any department and does not find something that you can raise a question on. So that's what I'm saying, that if we were to pick a simple imprest and say, no, there's an imprest here that has not been accounted for, it's simple. Go and surcharge that person. Their next month's salary, clamp something out of it, refund it to government.
But then it becomes gross and a serious issue if it is multiple cases.
If it's multiple cases.
Right.
If it is multiple, then that is something. Or if there are persistent audit queries along that line, that the auditor came here this year, raised this question, came the following year, same question, same department, no action is being taken, then that may approximate or reach the level of gross misconduct.
It is back.
I'm listening to what I'm referring to as this legal presentation, and it's actually very interesting because now, at least on this matter of impeachment, we've actually addressed the law regarding impeachment. Not what somebody thinks, not what they would like, not even, and what they presented, yes, but through the lenses and through the microscope of what the law actually says about these things. But the thing that I like the most is the law in and of itself, without the practice and the vigilant observation of its practice, then it's exactly of no use to us.
Correct.
Because when we are not vigilant, it's like we ourselves are colluding with the forces that are bent on ensuring that that law doesn't do what it's intended to do. So what that means then, Wakili, that is next to impossible to impeach a governor.
No. We have impeached Governor Waititu. We have impeached Governor Sonko. Governor Wambora was impeached twice. Only the court saved him. He survived by Governor Wambora needs to be studied as a phenomenon. He needs to be studied.
Case study.
Yeah, it's a case study. So it's possible to impeach a governor, but we should actually not find it pleasant that we impeach governors regularly. Because if we found it pleasant as a country, it will also put to question our own sense of judgment as electors. If after every election, the people we elect invariably are removed, then it means we are electing only gross violators of the Constitution, only people who grossly misconduct themselves. What does that say about ourselves, as it were?
Yeah.
So it should not be something very pleasant that we invariably impeach governors.
Doing.
Yes.
Then I want to actually roll on to that with the following question. Using the case of Governor Wambora and now what is unfolding about Governor Kawira Mwangaza, should we say if a county assembly impeaches a governor after X number of times, go back to the people, dissolve this county government, both the executive and the assembly, take the matter back to the sovereign?
Our law says that when you elect a governor as an electorate, remember that the person he or she has appointed, nominated as a running mate is a potential governor. So that must be an important part of what is weighing in your mind as you make that decision. Over and above his programs for roads, for schools, for healthcare, also ask what is his potential success actually, because you are electing as a package.
Yeah.
And the law says that if you remove that governor, then his running mate takes over. There's a procedure for getting a new deputy governor. When the person who was initially elected deputy governor assumes office, there's a procedure in law for that is provided for. So that's what we have today. Is it the best? It's debatable.
No,
whether we want to go back to the electorate, it's one of the choices we have. But let's also not cry that we are spending so much money on elections, because these things cut both ways. As citizens, we talk about waste all the time. So let's not, if we choose that as an option, let's remember it has a cost consequence. When IEBC comes and says we need 11 billion to do this election in this county, let's remember those are the choices we make. And no choice is free of cost. Every choice has either a value or monetary cost to it. And I therefore make no value choice myself. I say citizens just need to apply their mind and ask, are they willing to take the logical value or monetary consequences of the choice that they make?
Wakili, thank you very much for joining us. Isaac Babji says there's a mustache of wisdom in the studio this morning.
Thank you.
Elisha Ongoya is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, a senior lecturer at Kabarak University. He's a constitutional expert, and he's been here giving us his own perspectives on the impeachment laws, processes in this country. Come again soon, Wakili.
Thank you.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Senator Murango James Kamau.
Asante sana Mstahiki Spika kwa kunipa hii nafasi. Ya kwanza nimesimama hapa kimasomaso mchana peupe kupinga mswada ulioletwa na kiranja walio wachache katika bunge hili. Kwanza Mstahiki Spika, nadhani sisi sio kama jongoo, kwa hivyo tuna vichwa vyetu tunafaa kufikiria. Niseme ya kwamba kawaida ambayo imekuwa sasa nikaandika katika bunge hili la Seneti ni kwamba wakati mswada umeletwa sana sana ambao unafaa kuungwa mkono na pande zote mbili, anayoleta ule mswada anakuwa kiongozi wa wengi, na sana sana naona akiita kiongozi walio wachache kuunga mkono ule mswada. Mstahiki Spika, mswada wa leo umeletwa na kiranja walio wachache na kuungwa mkono na aliyetoka upande wa wachache. Hiyo ni kusema kuna azimio fiche katika tendo hili. Kwa hivyo Mstahiki Spika, mimi nimesimama hapa niseme ya kwamba sisi wengi ambao ni vijana katika bunge hili la Seneti pia tunafaa kupewa nafasi ya kusikiza, kunusa, kuonja na kusoma katika mswada ambao unaletwa katika bunge hili. Mstahiki Spika, niseme ya kwamba ukiangalia katika orodha ya wale watu wamewekwa pale, katika upande walio wengi ni wale watu ambao walikuweko wakati ule ambao gavana wa Meru aliletwa katika jumba hili la Seneti. Na kwa hivyo tunataka kusema ya kwamba hiyo inanyima nafasi maseneta wengi vijana kutoka pande hii walio wengi, na kwa hivyo ningeunga mkono kwamba tuletewe mswada kwa walio wengi. Mstahiki Spika, sitaki kukubaliana kwa kusema ya kwamba wakati gavana atakuja katika bunge hili hataweza kusikizwa kwa njia inayofaa. Ukienda katika bunge la Wandi la Gatuzi la Meru, wote wakilishi wadi 29 walisikiza na wakapitisha, 59 walisikiza na wakapitisha. Hiyo ni kusema sisi hatujafika hata hiyo, hatujafika 69, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hivyo mimi ningeomba ya kwamba upande walio wengi tusifuate mkondo kama samaki aliyekufa, tuweze kufikiria, tuletewe mswada katika bunge la Seneti, sisi wote tuweze kusikiza, kuchangia na kufanya maamuzi mbele ya kila mtu akiona, Kenya nzima ikitazama. Asante sana Mstahiki Spika. Napinga.
Senator Asotsi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to also raise my voice on this matter. Mr. Speaker, this is not the first time this House is debating this particular motion. You remember we had a similar motion on the matter involving the impeachment of the Meru governor. We had a similar motion on the matter involving the deputy governor of Siaya. And this House, nearly 90% of the members supported the idea of the committee. And everyone who stood up gave very good and valid reason why we need to go the committee way. Sitting here and listening to the senator for Kirinyaga, I wonder what has changed, Mr. Speaker. Because we all said, and the answer is there, is the evidence, that we all said that for us to do a neat job, we will need to go the committee way and not the plenary way. So, Mr. Speaker, I just want to support the mover, Senator Olekina, that I plead with you members, let us go the committee way so that we can do a clean job, so that we can give the people of Meru the justice they're looking for. And at the same time, Mr. Speaker, we need to continue with this, the image that we have acquired as a Senate, that we are a responsible House that looks at issues critically before making a decision. Mr. Speaker, we don't want to have a situation where we'll come here, convert this House into a lynching house without looking at the issues very critically. Mr. Speaker, I've listened to your communication, Mr. Speaker. The last paragraph, Mr. Speaker, you have clearly stated that the principles and ideals of the Constitution must be adhered to in this impeachment process. Mr. Speaker, I fear that when we go the plenary way, we may not adhere to the principles of the Constitution, particularly on the issue of administrative action, because the governor would require all the rights that that are provided for in the Constitution, so that she can.
Senator Aaron Cheriot.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I have 3 quick things to say, but let me be clear from the onset that first, I rise to oppose this motion. Mr. Speaker, I rise to oppose for 3 simple reasons. Number 1, as a leader in this House, I must learn to keep and honor my word. When I moved the motion in December last year to set up the committee, I was quite clear and still hold the same position this afternoon, Mr. Speaker, that there is no method that is better than the other. Anybody trying to peddle that kind of argument, in my opinion, Mr. Speaker, is misleading the House. I say that as a ranking member. I have participated in both plenary and committee impeachment hearings, and I can tell you without a doubt, Mr. Speaker, that both processes are fair, they are sound, they have a good legal basis, and they deliver the best result for the specific county that is before the House. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, when I moved that afternoon, I promise the House that at the next time we get such an opportunity, it will be my proposal that we go the plenary way. And therefore, this afternoon, Mr. Speaker, I want to propose that the House goes the plenary way so that we listen, all of us, sit here calmly and understand what is the issue with Meru. Second thing, Mr. Speaker, is that we need a cleanup of our laws. Perhaps members are wondering, how is it that we found ourselves in this situation? We found ourselves in this situation where this motion is being moved because unfortunately, under our own standing orders, standing order number 80 and section 33 of the County Governments Act, Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, there is no procedure of directly going to committee. You must first, going to plenary, you must first reject a committee and then you find yourself in the plenary way. It is my proposal and submission before this House, Mr. Speaker, that at the end of this process, we must move a cleanup of our standing orders and that law so that we can provide it in a fair and a cleaner way so that the House makes a decision. Just like, finally, Mr. Speaker, the decision of the committee, unfortunately, if they choose to absolve the governors of the blame, that is the end of that particular process. That is something that we must review, Mr. Speaker, eventually when you are done with this process, so that the House can have footing, final say on such matters from start to finish, so that eventually all the 47 delegations of this House gather and make a decision. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I want to plead with our colleagues, even if you're pursuing a particular interest, don't be unfair on the House. Don't cast aspersions to the House and believe that for whatever reason, members will suddenly not reason that the only way you can concentrate is if you're reduced from being 67 to only 11 of you. I don't think that is fair to the House. The same way I will sit at a
Senator Haji mwenye Faki.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa ya kuchangia mswada huu. Mheshimiwa Spika, kubanduliwa mamlakani wa gavana kwa kupitia njia ya impeachment ni jambo muhimu sana na jambo ambalo linatoa matatizo makubwa kwa yule ambaye anabanduliwa, kwa sababu ukibanduliwa mamlakani ina maana kwamba huwezi kukaa katika ofisi ya umma kwa kazi yoyote ile ambayo utakuwa una nia ya kuifanya. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, ni lazima tumpe yule mhusika nafasi nzuri ya kuweza kujitetea kutokana na mashtaka ambayo yanamkabili. Mheshimiwa Spika, njia ya kamati ni njia mwafaka kabisa ambayo inampa mhusika nafasi nzuri ya kuweza kujitetea na kusikiza yale mashtaka ambayo yataletwa mbele yake. Mheshimiwa Spika, japokuwa Seneti nzima, yani kupitia kwa hadhara, yani plenary, ina nafasi sawa na kamati, Mheshimiwa Spika, lakini tumeona katika historia ya impeachment ya Mheshimiwa Sonko, Mheshimiwa Waititu, hawakupata fursa nzuri ya kujieleza kwa sababu kazi yenyewe ni nyingi na inatakana ifanyike kwa muda wa siku 2. Mheshimiwa Spika, wiki iliyokwisha hapa tulikuja, mawaziri wawili walirudi bila kupatikana kwa kuwa tulikuwa hatuna quorum katika bunge hili. Mheshimiwa Spika, tukikaa hapa siku ambayo itakayotakana kukaa, na tunajua mara nyingi asubuhi wa maseneta huchelewa kufika katika bunge hili. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, itakuwa ni aibu kwamba nafasi ya kusikiza kesi inaendelea, wale ambao wataamua kesi hawako mahakamani, lakini kesi inaendelea kusikizwa bila ya wale watakaoamua kuwako mahakama hili. Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi naona njia mwafaka ni kuwa na kamati, na kamati ile ni maseneta wote, wale ambao watachaguliwa ni maseneta kama maseneta wengine. Mheshimiwa Spika, hii kadhia ya kuweza kubandikia kamati masuala ambayo hayakuweza, kwa mfano tuhuma za kupokea hongo ama tuhuma za kufanya kazi bila ya kuwa sawasawa, Mheshimiwa Spika, haifai, kwa sababu seneta yeyote ambaye anahudumu katika kamati ni seneta kama seneta mwingine, Mheshimiwa Spika, na kamati zote zinapokaa ni kamati za bunge la Seneti. Kwa hivyo kadhia zote ambazo ni za kuhakikisha kwamba kuna haki na usawa zinafanyika. Mheshimiwa Spika, ningependa kusema kwamba nafasi ya kamati itakuwa ni ndio njia bora kabisa ya kuweza kusikiza madai ambayo yamependekezwa na bunge la kaunti ya Meru, na hiyo itawapa fursa watu wote wabunge wa bunge la kaunti ya Meru na Gavana Kawira Mwangaza watapewa nafasi sawa ya kuweza kusikiza kesi ile na kutoa uamuzi ambao utasaidia kuleta haki na usawa. Mheshimiwa Spika, hatuwezi kuwa kama bunge hapa.
Senator Mundigi.
Bwana Spika, mimi nakataa kuundwa kwa maseneta 11 ya kuchunguza mambo ya Senator Kawira, mambo ya Meru, kwa gavana wa Meru, kwa sababu mnakumbuka wakati ule mwingine tulikuwa hapa na tukachagua Senator 11, na wakati walikuwa naangalia hiyo tukawa tumemrudisha na pia tukampatia onyo kali sana. Vile nataka kusema wale MCA 59.
Senator Mundigi, hoja nidhamu yako ni gani, Senator Faki?
Seneta wa Embu amesema zungusa. Sasa sijui ni kuzungumza ama ni kuzungusha.
That point of order is overruled. Just proceed, Senator Mundigi.
Senator wa Mombasa, masikio yako haisikii vizuri. Mimi umekula miraa na dawa ya kulevya. Sasa nyamaza, niweze kuzungumza kusaidia watu wa Meru. MCA 59 walikubaliana mambo ya kutimua gavana kwa sababu ya kushindwa na kazi yake. Aidha gavana ni mama ama ni mwanaume, mpaka tuangalie vile.
Senator Mundigi, kadri unavyochangia katika hoja hii, tafadhali na kusihi utie manani ile tahadhari ambayo nimepeana kabla hatujaanza mdahalo huu. Hatuzungumzi ukweli, uzito, usawa ama uchache wa ile kesi. Tunazungumzia mjadala ambao uko mbele yetu kwa sasa ni aidha kama Senate tuchague kamati ndio ifanye uchunguzi ama Senate mzima ifanye uchunguzi. Kwa hivyo tafadhali usiende nje ya mada hiyo.
Naomba msamaha, ni uchungu ambaye nilio nayo kwa watu wa Meru, kwa sababu Bwana Spika, unakumbuka Embu tumeteseka kwa kipindi ya miaka 10, na kama watu wa Meru wanasikia vile tulikuwa sikia, wanaona kwa sababu alikuwa jirani, mimi naunga mkono tuwe maseneta 67, tuangalie vile itawezekana, kwa sababu tunajua wakati kaunti 47 ni mambo ya kuangalia vile kuko. Kwa hivyo naunga mkono na kataa mambo ya hawa, tuweze kuwa sisi wote tuangalie itakuanji, kwa sababu kama watu wataka kulipisha, sioni ni vizuri, kwa sababu wakati mambo mengine yafanyika hapa ni kwa sababu tulirudisha deputy ambaye ni wa Kisumu. Sasa leo hatuwezi kumbali yote mnasema mpaka tuende Senator 67.
What is the point of order, Senator Kenya?
Bwana Spika, nilimsikiza Mheshimiwa Mundigi akisema kusingizia kwamba seneta kutoka Mombasa anaweza kuwa anatumia madawa ya kulevya. Hakumsikiza Bwana Spika. Ningependa ya kwamba alisema namna hiyo Bwana Spika. Alisema
Senator Mundigi, just sit down.
Bwana Spika, nukuu zetu Bwana Spika.
Order senators.
Alisema Bwana Spika, nukuu zetu ningependa ziondolewe kwa sababu Seneta Faki ni seneta wa nyumba hii, na kusema ya kwamba anaweza kutumia madawa ya kulevya si vizuri Bwana Spika.
Senator Mundigi, ikiwa ni kweli ulizungumza matamshi hayo kwamba seneta wa Mombasa, Seneta Faki anatumia madawa ya kulevya, itabidi usimame utoe katika nakala maneno hayo na tena uombe msamaha ndo uendelee kumaliza.
Naomba msamaha kwa rafiki wangu seneta wa Mombasa. Labda seneta akusikie vizuri, si kusema mambo kama hayo. Kwa hivyo kama nimeongea, nimeomba msamaha.
Senator Eddie Okech.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for giving me the opportunity to contribute to this proposal actually by the minority whip. And I only have two things to say today, Mr. Speaker. The first thing is that, Mr. Speaker, anytime this kind of business come to this house, it is an opportunity for us as a house to rise above the politics of the day and give this house the status that it deserves. Indeed, as the majority leader had said, there is no any bad way or any better way between the two ways. But I think that there was wisdom as to why they were actually put that you can either consider two options. And for me, it is circumstantial. It's circumstantial to the extent that, Mr. Speaker, the first thing that we must consider is the sanctity of this house. And why I'm saying sanctity is that we don't want to take a process that can leave us to litigation in whichever way possible. And, Mr. Speaker, we have had a house that we have these. Mr. Speaker, you must control Cherargei. He keeps on making a lot of
Senator
noise.
Eddie, would you wish to be informed by Senator Fernandez?
Cherargei is the most uninformed person in this house.
Would you wish to be informed? It's either yes or no.
I wouldn't wish to be informed by Senator Cherargei. So, Mr. Speaker, I want us to be cautious that we do not put ourselves in a situation whereby we are going to have litigations after this particular process. Number two, Mr. Speaker, the weight of this matter is exemplified by the fact that this particular county is bringing this issue for the second time in this house. I think that if that be so, then it behooves this house to make sure that there is absolute examination of every single issue raised in this particular impeachment. And, Mr. Speaker, we can't ignore the fact that if we do not take our time to examine, as thorough as a committee will do, then we'll do a disservice to the people of Meru. I agree with the majority that both ways work, but the examination and justice that is needed will happen best when people are committed to examining those issues that have been raised. With that, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand to oppose the motion to constitute a committee to hear the matter before the House regarding the removal of the governor of Meru County. And for these reasons, Mr. Speaker. One, Speaker, this is the second time this governor is being brought for impeachment to this House. Mr. Speaker, the first time the governor was brought here, we appointed a committee. Mr. Speaker, they say only a fool does something the same way and expect different results. And Mr. Speaker, because for the first time we followed the committee way, and this is the same governor, I think, Mr. Speaker, it would only be fair that this time around we try a plenary, Mr. Speaker. Number two, still on the same, Mr. Speaker, that this is the second impeachment happening in the same, within 1 year, Mr. Speaker. And I pray that you may
What is your
protect
point
me.
of order, Senator Eddie?
Please freeze my time.
Mr. Speaker, I raise standing order number 105 on imputing improper motive, Mr. Speaker. The senator of Murang'a has just said that when this matter first appeared before us in this house, we tried a committee. And therefore, it's a justification enough for us to go the plenary way. Is he imputing that the committee that did the work in the previous matter did not do the right job? Is that what he's implying? And even use the word like stupid in terms of the processes, Mr. Speaker, and fools, Mr. Speaker. Is he suggesting that the committee that was anointed by this House and given that task to do the other time was not proper? And does he want a different outcome because that committee did not do a right job?
Senator Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wouldn't have wanted to spend most of my time responding to standing orders. But Mr. Speaker, I did not say, and I think it's very important for members to listen keenly. I said, they say, they are adages, Senator, through the Speaker, only a fool does the same thing every time and expect different results. That is not me that said that, Mr. Speaker. Allow me to respond. But Mr. Speaker, I know he wants to distract me. So, Mr. Speaker, kindly allow me to proceed with my contribution.
Order, Senator. Order, Senators. Order, Senators. Can you conclude your contribution?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was just about to say before the rude interruption from the Senator from Migori that, Mr. Speaker, the fact is that this governor is being impeached for the second time. The County Assembly of Meru is like doing an appeal, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I have a right to be heard, and then they will raise their points, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Newton, take a seat. And freeze his time, please. What's your point of order, Senator Sifuna?
Mr. Speaker, I believe that this would fall under the ambit of anticipating debate, because what our colleague, the senator, is saying is that there is a desired result, and that in fact, if you go the same way, you will get the same result as last time, and that result was not desirable. What we are saying to him, what we're saying, Mr. Speaker, in accordance with your guidance, nobody should anticipate what result would arise from what process. That is what you guided us to do. So he should refrain in his debate from suggesting that somehow, and by the way, Mr. Speaker, there is no such thing as a second impeachment acting as an appeal. No, I believe, I have not read the facts and the allegations, that they are based on new facts and new allegations, and that they are being treated as a new case to be examined objectively on the basis of the facts and the evidence. So he is out of order, Mr. Speaker, and I would wish that you would rule on that particular objection.
Senator Newton, the motion before us is a motion to have a special committee investigate this matter. From the onset, if I heard you correctly, you're opposed to it and you favor the plenary. Convince your colleagues why the plenary is the best way to go without necessarily going the route that Senator for Nairobi has just cautioned.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your guidance. I was just about to say, but you have advised me to avoid going that route. But I was just going to say that the second reason that I opposed this particular motion is because we have from our side the same members. that had this, that did the first impeachment proceedings in this House, Mr. Speaker. And so that was my second reason. Mr. Speaker, I have listened to my colleagues saying that the committee way will be able to investigate the matter in a better way than the plenary way, Mr. Speaker. And my submission is that, Mr. Speaker, from what I know, 2 heads are better than 1. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm not convinced that when members are fewer, they'll be able to do a job.
Senator Dulo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to oppose this motion. Mr. Speaker, I believe we have moved, or rather we had 2 impeachments since inception of this particular House. And I think in the last 2 impeachments, we have gone committee way. So it's important also for the members who are new to really understand how the process of plenary goes. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, it is only fair for the members of public also to understand how impeachment is carried in the Senate in a plenary. Because when we go committee way, it's the committee to sit, deliberate, and it is brought to the House whether the charges are sustained or otherwise. Mr. Speaker, I think according to me, the best way to go for the purpose of transparency in the public glaring, that plenary is the best way to go so that members of public can follow the debate and see where the problems are. Personally, I support plenary, and that will be fair to the county assembly, to the people of Meru, to the person who is impeached. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I think, according to me, and I believe having sat in plenary and also committee in the last 2 Senates, the best way to go is plenary. I oppose the motion. I thank you.
Senator Wafula.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kunipa wakati huu kuchangia. Mheshimiwa Spika, wakati gavana huyu alikuwa hapa kujitetea alipoletwa hapa na kaunti yake husika, gavana huyu aliponea chupu na utetezi wake ulifanywa katika kikao ambacho hatukuwepo, lakini kwa sababu ya uamuzi wa jumla, uamuzi wa seneti kwamba waliokubaliana nayo pia si tukubali, tukakubali shingo upande. Mheshimiwa Spika, watu wa kaunti hii wana mambo ambayo wangependa kusikia yakitajwa, yakijadiliwa, yakizungumziwa peupe mchana. Watu wa kaunti hii wanataka kujua rafiki yao ni nani, asiyekuwa rafiki yao ni nani. Watu wa kaunti hii wanataka kujua seneti inajua yanayoendelea katika kaunti yao ama hapana. Watu wa kaunti hii wanajua kwamba katika majadiliano ya watu wachache kuna mazungumzo ya chini kwa chini ambayo hao hawahusiki. Leo wana nafasi kusikia wazi wale wanaoitwa madaktari, wanaoitwa maprofesa, wale ambao ni walimu, wadhihirishe uwezo wao wazi mchana kadamnasi ya umma. Ni wapi ama ni shinikizo zipi zinahakikisha kwamba wanapata haki ama wanapata nafasi ya kujieleza, kwa sababu Senate ni jumba la kutetea ugatuzi. Iwapo viongozi kama MCAs wamekata kauli kwamba lazima Pilato awape nafasi wasulubishe Barnaba ama wasulubishe Yesu, sisi ni nani, Mheshimiwa Spika, tuje hapa tuchukue nafasi yao kana kwamba hawana akili, si watu timamu kuamua hatima yao? Mheshimiwa Spika.
Senator Fuller, you are out of order to the extent of that particular statement.
Naomba msamaha, naomba kuondoa. Lakini kabla sijakaa, Mheshimiwa Spika, watu kwetu sema fisi aliambia jiwe, japo umenyamaza lakini umesikia. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika.
Senator Asige.
Thank you very much, Speaker. First of all, I'm not too sure why Senator Kajwang would have wanted to block me from supporting my whip. However, he is very well aware that I am a musician, and an award-winning musician at that, and my voice will be heard one way or the other. Mr. Speaker, please do. I will sing, but I will sing on Friday 3rd at Orchid Lounge for all of us. So please come. That's where you'll find me singing this week. Mr. Speaker, I support this motion. And I've heard arguments about promises that have been made in the first impeachment motion, and now they want to be fulfilled here. But, Mr. Speaker, I will remind the House that this is not the second motion, this is the third. If a promise was supposed to have been fulfilled, it should have been done so in the impeachment of the DG of CIA. That has now come and gone, so for me, that does not hold. Second, it's also been argued that the same members from the majority side are being recycled in this committee. However, Mr. Speaker, to me, that sounds like an internal wrangle, an internal communication and conversation that should have been had with senators from the majority side, with their leader, and not something that should be brought to this House as part of the debate, because Mr. Speaker, Meru does not want to know who is being recycled or not. Meru does not want, the governor does not want to know, and neither do we, Mr. Speaker. I think that is something that should have been lobbied and persuaded internally for the majority side. Mr. Speaker, I also believe that committee is the correct way to go, because interrogations will be had, and pardon me, and the evidence, thank you, will be combed through in a much more succinct way than if we are sitting here throwing mud at each other, slinging at each other in terms of our debates, and then, of course, wasting the precious time of this honorable House. Mr. Speaker, I just want to reiterate the importance of giving somebody, in this case, the governor of Meru, a fair hearing, and that will be done if, in my opinion, 11 people sit down, put their heads down, and focus on the evidence and interrogate this matter to its conclusion. And thereafter, the House will have an opportunity to vote either for or against whatever the committee decides. Mr. Speaker, I want to again reiterate that I support the motion, and I thank Senator Kajwang for giving me, even though not in the first instance, this instance to do so.
Senator Mutenda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I rise as a delegation of Meru to completely oppose this motion. One, Mr. Speaker, I want to state that as a new member in this House, it gives us an experience on matters plenary, because as Mel had promised last time, this was the way to go, so that even as a House, we can have the plenary experience. Further to that, Mr. Speaker, I have noticed that even in this motion contribution, I am the third female senator to contribute in this motion. This being a female governor, we want plenary because we want an opportunity to be able to have a feel as women senators, to be able to understand, is it leadership issues? Is it other issues in this county? That is why we want plenary, so that all the voices of all the women in this House can be heard, so that we can be able to make the right decision for the great people of Meru County. You look at the list for the committee, the 11 committee members that have been put. I've had, if my mind serves me correctly, I think I've had only 3 female senators. We want a bigger voice as women, so that our voices are completely heard on the contribution that we are going to make. When the people elected the honorable governor, it was not about not knowing that she was a female. We want as female to be respected. So we want our voices to be fully heard. They can only be heard completely through plenary in this house. So I continue rising and supporting that we go the plenary way, so that completely we execute the issues of Meru extensively, massively, for the benefit of the people of Meru. The governor has been impeached again. Again, it saddens me because we were in the first line with Senator Gloria supporting and being happy that the governor has survived. Now again, it has come back. On this particular platform, we try the plenary way so that we get now to understand the real issues. Also as leaders, as female, to understand the deeper issues. The only answer is on plenary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Kavindu.
Asante Bwana Spika kwa kunipa hii fursa niweze kusupport hii motion ya kwamba hii impeachment ipelekwe kwa committee. Na Bwana Spika, nimesikia wengi wakisema ya kwamba hii impeachment motion ikipelekwa kwa committee haitapata haki. Hii inamaanisha kwamba zile petitions zote na statements na motions zinaletwa hapa na zinapelekwa kwa committee hazipati haki. Hazipati haki kabisa. Zinapata haki, ninaamini zinapata haki, na kwa hivyo Bwana Spika, nina support hii motion ipelekwe kwa committee ili watu wa Meru waweze kupata haki yao, na pia Governor Kawira aweze kupata haki yake na wawe na wakati wa kuwasikiliza vizuri. Bwana Spika, nimekaa kwa committee ya impeachment mara mbili. Hii ya Kawira imekwisha na ingine ilikuwa ya Western, ilikuwa ya Northeastern. Bwana Spika, pale kuna wakati mwema sana wa watu kusikilizwa. Kama ni governor asikilizwe, kama ni malalamishi ya MCAs na watu wa Meru pia wasikilizwe vizuri kwa makini. Na kwenda kwa committee haimaanishi ya kwamba watu wa media hawezi kuja pale, watu wa Meru wakaweza kufuata kabisa kile kinatendeka kwa committee. Mimi niko kwa committee ile ya Bomb Blast 1998 na kila wakati mnaona kwa media, kwa maana tunaita watu wa media pale kuja, itakuwa wazi hata kwa committee. Nina support iende kwa committee. Asante Bwana Speaker.
Senator Wamatenga.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise from the onset to oppose. Mr. Speaker, sir, I am quite perturbed by the mathematics that have been done in this House. I thought, Mr. Speaker, sir, that a bigger number will give us a wider base of knowledge. Mr. Speaker, sir, 11 members cannot and will never possess the knowledge that the 67 members in this House must have. As has been mentioned by my colleagues, Mr. Speaker, I do not want to repeat that this is the second time that the governor will be coming here, and therefore it is very important that the whole nation, indeed, and specifically women in this country, get to follow the issues so that it will never be blamed on the Senate that it was a gendered issue. Mr. Speaker, sir, the only opportunity that we have is to open up for everybody, for all the 67, including our colleagues, the women, so that it will be said that the Senate did justice to the people of Kenya, to the people of Meru, and most importantly, to our daughters who are also aspiring in the future to become leaders. Mr. Speaker, sir, when I hear the names of the 11 members, I must admit that we do not have two sets of brains that you leave when you're going to the committee and the other one that you take when you're going to the plenary. Mr. Speaker, we use the same brains, whether we are 11 here in the House or we are the whole House. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is important. This is an emotive issue and we must consider the weight it carries by going the plenary way so that the whole Republic of Kenya will know that indeed this superior house has the composition to deliver justice not only to Kenyans but of course to the future generations. And I want also to be very future centric. We need to give the confidence of all our daughters who aspire to become leaders that indeed the House of Senate can deliver justice by opening this so that it will be discussed in clear daylight for everybody to take home. Mr. Speaker, I oppose.
Senator Maruma.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to support the motion by Senator Lamolekina. Firstly, I would like to say, Mr. Speaker, that both ways, plenary way and committee way, are provided for in the standing orders. However, Mr. Speaker, one of them is better than another in terms of how we approach the proceedings. Mr. Speaker, when you go the committee way, we have an opportunity to have an in-depth understanding of the cases because we interrogate the documents better when we are fewer, Mr. Speaker. We had opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to go through the same petition of Kawira Mwangaza, Honorable, when we were led by Senator Boni Khalwale, Dr. Boni Khalwale. And I think the work that was done in that committee was a sterling job. We looked at the documents very soberly, and we came up with a finding that the allegations were not substantiated. When you went the committee way in the case of Deputy Governor for Siaya, again, the committee that was there looked at the documents, and there were some allegations that were substantiated. But again, there was opportunity when you came to plenary again to overturn the findings of the committee, and Honorable Odol was let off the hook. So, Mr. Speaker, I think both ways are okay because they're allowed in the standing orders, but it's better when you use a committee because then we can interrogate the issues much better to have a close understanding and a better understanding of the issues. Mr. Speaker, when I saw the list from the majority side, I knew we were set. It was a poison chalice because the same members who had participated in the other petition for Kawira Mwangaza were the same people who are put in the committees. So I knew they were set so that they can be disenchanted, so that they can be disenfranchised and vote against the committee way. So I think, Mr. Speaker, I would be waiting for the vote, but most likely, if we go the committee way, then you can give the people of Meru the justice that they require, Mr. Speaker. I support, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Chute.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Let me use the word of Senator Maruma. Thank you very much for noticing the issue of the 6 members. And Senator Ledama should have known this. And I think we don't need to waste a lot of time. The Speaker, Article 181 is very clear. It talks about the impeachment of a governor. Standing Order 80B1 talks about special committee. B2 talks about the plenary. So, Speaker, 7 governors were impeached since 2013, starting from Governor Wambora, Governor Chepkwony, Waititu, Anne Waiguru, Mike Sonko, Mohammed Abdi from Wajir. This is to notify Senator for Machakos. We don't have a governor, a county called Northeastern. We have a county called Wajir. That is where Mohammed Abdi comes from, was impeached. And the latest governor to be impeached now is Senator Kawira Mwangaza from Meru. And also, we had an opportunity to have our guest here, Deputy Governor, Dr. William Odwol. William Odwol went through 11-member, Martin Wambora, 11-member committee, Chepkwony, 11-member committee, Anne Waiguru went through 11-member committee, and also Mohammed Abdi went through 11-member committee. And the latest one, the previous Governor Kawira went through 11-member. And Waititu went through plenary, and also Senator Governor Mike Sonko, Sonko's impeachment went through plenary. Mr. Speaker, these methods are all okay. And I don't want to say I will support it or oppose it, but I would want to ask our brothers on the other side, let us not argue on this. Let's go plenary way, because it's an experience for some of us also to learn this process for new members like me and others, and those members who didn't go through this process. I will request kindly, let's follow this process and have plenary way. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Kajon.
Mr. Speaker, as I rise to comment on this motion, the leadership of this House, and those are the gentlemen and women we have put in the Senate Business Committee, should spare us this agony that we are going through. Mr. Speaker, this debate has not helped to educate anybody. It has only helped to expose the bias amongst the judges sitting in this House. Senators will be sitting as judges, and the bias is clear. Everyone who stands on my side supports. Everyone who stands on the other side opposes. And yet we have not even heard the case. We have only read the charges. So, Speaker, in future, I want to encourage the SPC, because that is where the numbers are balanced, and we've got our leaders that trust, and the leaders that we have entrusted with the mandate, to bring us a formula that will not be subjected to debate. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, the leader of majority referred to Standing Order number 80.
What is the point of order, Senator Ledama?
Mike. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise on Standing Order number 80, which is the standing order that we are prosecuting. And I would not wish to disrupt my colleague and brother, who I respect quite a lot. But is the distinguished senator from Homa Bay in order to suggest that the House Business Committee can make a decision which is clearly stipulated on how that decision should be made in our standing order? Mr. Speaker, this House, the House Business Committee, deals with the calendar of the House. Matters are resolved. In fact, when you read, Mr. Speaker, you clearly indicated that this is a decision, a resolution of the Senate. The House Business Committee is not the Senate. So, Mr. Speaker, I would like to persuade my brother to look at the standing order and not point a special on the House business, but call upon the entire House to amend the law as well as amend the standing orders so that a formula can be brought which will not solicit the debate that people will need to decide that people have already made up their mind. So, Mr. Speaker, I'd like you to find my dear brother out of order.
Senator Kajon, the decision as to whether to go the committee way or the plenary is a decision to be made by the House. The SBC can only facilitate a member wishing to bring a motion on the committee. In this regard, the SBC facilitated the tabling of the motion by the Senator for Narok. But the decision ultimately is supposed to be done by the House.
Mr. Speaker, because it's a matter of interpretation, I do not necessarily have to agree with you, Mr. Speaker, because if you look at Standing Order number 81B...
Senator Kajuang, the chair has ruled.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will not challenge your ruling. But what standing order, and I'm not challenging your ruling. I am proceeding with what I wanted to say.
Proceed.
That the standing orders, the only thing that requires a resolution is a special committee. The plenary is the default mode of operation of this House. If you want a special committee, you bring a resolution. You seek a resolution of the House. Otherwise, by default, this Senate is supposed to process impeachments in plenary. Special committee is an exception. that is acquired through a resolution of the House. And I'm not challenging, Mr. Speaker, I am not challenging the tabling of this motion, because this motion seeks the resolution. So there's nothing wrong with the motion. But the default position of the Senate is to prosecute in plenary so that all of us can be present. Mr. Speaker, I want to finalize by saying that let us be extremely careful so that those people in the county assembly, in Meru, and in the entire nation does not start looking at us through the coalition colors and through the coalition formations. This debate has been fairly poisonous, and it is exposing some bias that might be prejudicial to what we'll be dealing with in the next couple of days. Mr. Speaker, I submit.
Thank you. Senator Ledama. Senator Ledama. Order. Order. Senator Chirangei. And I need Senator Kajuang. Okay. The mandate of the Senate is to prosecute this matter at the plenary. However, the Senate, in its own wisdom, can decide to form a committee. Senator Chirangei.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to oppose the motion from the onset on the three reasons. One, Mr. Speaker, the trophy and the defenders of devolution today in the afternoon, Mr. Speaker, sir, goes to the great members of County Assembly of Meru. Mr. Speaker, I hope many MCAs should benchmark with the wonderful work that the MCAs of Meru are doing. They have been very consistent and patient, and I want to laud them for taking the bold step, Mr. Speaker. You know, unfortunately, governors have made most of our MCAs as their partners in bad governance in counties, Mr. Speaker. This should be a warning to many county governors that when you have MCAs who play their rightful role of oversight, Mr. Speaker, then it is very important. So I allowed, Mr. Speaker. Number two, Mr. Speaker, there are reasons as to why standing order number 80 and section 33 is very clear. Mr. Speaker, when we prosecute either by committee or by plenary, Mr. Speaker, I want to invite most of the colleagues who have never had the privilege and rare opportunity of prosecuting to do plenary, Mr. Speaker.
What is the point of order, Senator Eddy?
Please, my time.
Mr. Speaker, I rise with the point of order of limiting debates. Mr. Speaker, the Senator for Nandi has just prosecuted on this matter conclusively, stood in front of this House and gave a judgment on the work of MCAs and on the personality of the governor for Meru, which in his own wisdom, what you read as charges that were forwarded before us, the governor stands guilty. Mr. Speaker, the debate that we are having here is whether we are going to prosecute these matters on principle in committee. Is Senator Chirangei in order, Mr. Speaker, to make a judgment on substantive issues that we are yet to discuss as a House, Mr. Speaker? And Mr. Speaker, you in your ruling, Mr. Speaker, I find this one grossly disorderly, Mr. Speaker. Given that you had given Senator Chirangei a lot of warnings, Mr. Speaker, and I think that he's doing this deliberately, Mr. Speaker, perhaps to actually disregard the orders that you're giving, Mr. Speaker. I think you should find him in order, Mr. Speaker, if it pleases you so, and throw him out of this House, Mr. Speaker, because he's reducing this House to a mere theater of jokes, Mr. Speaker. I rest my case, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Chirangei, I gave the guidance when I was giving the communication. What is before you is a motion to pass a resolution for special committee. Either you're for it or you're not for it. The substance of the impeachment cannot be the subject matter of any senator's contribution here. It's either you're opposing and you give the reasons why you think the plenary will be a better forum to handle this matter. Kindly avoid delving into the substance of the impeachment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm well guided, but in the words of Burning Spear, there is a saying that we are not all that stupid, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to borrow in the words of Lucky Dube, Mr. Speaker, the reggae, that justice, fairness, and social equality should be the cornerstone, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the reason I'm saying is we need to ensure that there are principles of natural justice. Mr. Speaker, plenary, Waititu case, Songo case, among other governors that we listen to, Mr. Speaker, through plenary, it gives opportunity to new members to learn. Because Senate should be the learning curve to expose them, Mr. Speaker. The committee way is limited because at the resolution of the committee, I had a misconception and misleading the House at some point by some members that saying Senate will have the second bite on the cherry. It does not have, Mr. Speaker, because when the committee sits and agree that governor is not guilty or not guilty, Mr. Speaker, then that matter ends there, Mr. Speaker. So we are ready to listen to the plenary way as we listen to the tunes of guitar, Mr. Speaker, so that we understand. Be very keen and be very to listen, Mr. Speaker. So I propose that we go the plenary way. I've been the champion of plenary way on the floor of the House, Mr. Speaker, so that we have opportunity, Mr. Speaker, so that Senator Crystal Asige, and I want to inform members, Mr. Speaker, for benefit, because I rarely give out my advice pro bono, Mr. Speaker, but today I do it for free. Mr. Speaker, you have opportunity to cross-examine, to analyze, to look at the documentation, Senator Okia Omtata, so that when somebody moves to court, the way Senator Okia Omtata moved, Mr. Speaker, they will not question that Senate did not consider, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I oppose, let us go to plenary way. And I thank my chair, Mr. Speaker, he is always brilliant. Senator Moses Otieno Kajwang is the man to watch.
Senator Mungatana.
Mr. Speaker,
Senator Sifuna, I can only pick a senator from this side whose name is on the dashboard. As we speak, the names on the dashboard are all from this side. So if you wish to speak, proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to say something which hasn't been said, that you see, and honorable members who are practitioners in the courts, Mr. Speaker, when a witness appears before you, you have the benefit of looking at that witness. You see the eyes, you see the demeanor of that witness, you appreciate even the voice in terms of presentation, whether that person is actually telling the truth. You have the opportunity to feel that witness. Now, since this Senate is going to be sitting as a court, Mr. Speaker, it's fair, and I'm trying to appeal to the legal minds on the other side, that Mr. Speaker, since we are sitting
What is your point of
as
order,
a court,
Senator Asige? Senator Mungatana, kindly yield.
I will yield.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I wanted, it's a point of clarification. Is the good Senator Mungatana trying to imply that people who cannot see will not be able to prosecute a matter? Is because we know very well that we even in Kenya have a judge who is blind, and he does a fantastic job and he does not see the witness's demeanor, their facial expressions, or anything else in terms of body language. So, Mr. Speaker, I would like some clarification from Mungatana if that point in his argument is actually factual. Thank you.
Senator Mungatana,
Mr. Speaker,
be sensitive on this matter.
I hardly wish to engage my very good friend, because we come a long way with the old man. So I don't want to go that way. But even if you have challenges in terms of visual challenges, Mr. Speaker, you still, when the witness is before you, you feel the voice. You feel it. And Mr. Speaker,
especially for people who have been in these courts for a long time, you can actually tell whether a witness is telling a lie or telling the truth. So, Mr. Speaker, my point, which hasn't been said, is that we want the court, the entire Senate, to have the benefit of the witness. I want to see Kawira Mwangaza because the last time I never saw her. I never heard anything from her. I just, the committee sat and then said she was okay. I want to see her. I want to see what is the problem. How does this person who is disturbing the entire Meru, how does she look like, Mr. Speaker? I just want to see. I support that we should have plenary. I oppose this motion. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Karungo. Senator Karungo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I must thank you because I landed back today from Angola, where you had appointed me to represent this country at the IPU Assembly. And that shows that you have confidence in me. Mr. Speaker, the same thing I can say, whoever put my name on this motion to be a member of the 11-member committee has a lot of confidence in me. Because, Mr. Speaker, I really was part of that committee previously. Maybe probably I bring institutional memory, and probably I know a thing or two. And that's why I'm standing here, Mr. Speaker, to support this motion, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have to support it because I believe the committee work is supposed to investigate and, of course, substantiate the allegations. Now, how does a plenary investigate, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, I believe in the rule of law, in processes, because I know one day, one time, I'm going to be here, Mr. Speaker. What I'm trying to insinuate, Mr. Speaker, the only problem...
What is the point of order, Senator Cheriot?
Mr. Speaker, wouldn't it have been, I'm just curious, I've heard Senator Karungo say, how does the plenary do an investigation? Then my question to him is, how will you find out if you don't give yourself the chance to serve in a plenary? Because you've had the opportunity to serve in a committee. Do not be victim of the misinformation that is being peddled on the floor. I have told you as your leader, and I cannot mislead you, that there is nothing that you can do in a committee which you cannot do in plenary, including questioning the witness.
That is more of a point of information than a
Yeah,
point of order.
thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that information. I hope you freezed my time. Mr. Speaker, Senator Chute enumerated very well those who went through the committee and those who went through the plenary. May I inform this House that those who went through the committee, they are still in office, or they never left office. Those who went through the plenary, they are home today, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, so, but my issue...
Order. If you have information to pass, you know exactly what to do.
Mr.
Proceed,
Speaker,
Senator.
before I'm informed, I am standing here to say that I believe in the committee way. The only problem with the committee is when they find out that grounds are not substantiated, they don't we don't discuss that report. And that's why I have a bill that is in your office, Mr. Speaker. Probably it will be here, whereby we should always be going through the committee. But either, whether they find substantiated or not substantiated, it must be brought to the plenary for scrutiny so that we can go through it, all of us. But a committee will always do a good work by writing to offices. Now imagine, we want to stand here as a plenary and I want to investigate myself. Do I write as Senator Dhangwa or do I write to the Speaker for the Speaker to that office? But a committee has a chair.
Senator Roba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to contribute to this motion before I decide whether to oppose or to support. Mr. Speaker, I was privileged to have served in the first impeachment as a committee member, and quite sincerely, I hold a favorable view that a committee will do justice to this impeachment process by getting the opportunity to be able to look in depth into the issues. However, Mr. Speaker, I was disadvantaged. It was unfortunate enough. The behavior that was portrayed during the first impeachment by members of this House and members of this House were people who are not members of the committee who really went ahead to give even derogatory statements directly in the face of committee members in the most disrespectful manner, without any justification whatsoever, that has really put a lot of, question mark on, the diligently, the diligent investigation done by the committee and the decision that the committee undertook. And eventually, what came out is a situation that manifested a position of distrust within our own members here. And I want to go on record for purposes of, for the benefit of the people of Meru County, for them to understand we are not prosecuting anything at the Senate right now. We're only trying to agree on modalities of execution of the responsibility before us. And as such, there's no predetermined position. We're only agreeing which both ways are legal. I incline, because of that bad experience and the position of distrust that was portrayed by members of this House, that maybe for the benefit of them getting to understand the treacherous work that the committees undergo, to give them the opportunity for that to be executed through the plenary as suggested. Both ways are legal. And Honorable Speaker, I am not responding to my brother Kajwang, but there is nothing wrong, with holding different views, in terms of whether A or B in terms of what is constitutionally allowed. And we're only taking that position. That is my take, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. I oppose.
Senator Akenye Beatrice.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to support the position that we go the committee way. One, Honorable Speaker, from the presentations earlier, one of the senators indicated that we should give new members an opportunity to also get the experience of the committees. And Honorable Speaker, I've seen in the names that have been forwarded, Senator Sige is one of them. She had not been a member of an earlier committee, and so I want to support. That will be a very good opportunity for her also to experience the committee way. And Honorable Speaker, that should also follow that a number of us that are new in the next time will also get an opportunity to experience the committee way of dealing with impeachment. And Honorable Speaker, the second reason why I want to support going by the committee is that committees are also...
Order, Senators. Senator Miraj.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The committee will also ensure that the matter is dealt with clarity, Honorable Speaker, because there'll be fewer members, less time is spent in the deliberations. And so, Honorable Speaker, I support the committee way so that we also want to see the committee should also intensely study how over 3/4 of MCAs would vote against the governor. And that can only be determined by intensively looking at the matter in a more, where less members are. I therefore support the committee way, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Veronica.
Honorable Speaker, thank you for this opportunity. I rise to oppose this motion for the reason that Standing Order 80 provides for the procedure for removal of a governor. It provides either for plenary and provides for a special committee. Mr. Speaker, when I look at the functions that are laid out in Standing Order 82A and B, Mr. Speaker, the function remains the same for both the special committee and the plenary, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, just in line with the message you read to this House as you were detailing the charges that have come from the Meru County, it was clear, Mr. Speaker, that when Senate resumes as plenary or as a special committee to consider the charges that are levied against the governor, Mr. Speaker, either the special committee or the plenary will have the function to investigate the matter. And it will sit as a quasi-judicial body, Mr. Speaker. That means it will not be ordinary debate. It will be a body that will be investigative in nature. Any document that is presented, nothing will stop the Senate, the plenary, Mr. Speaker, from questioning any document, taking evidence, Mr. Speaker, calling and cross-examining any witness who appears before the plenary or the special committee. That is why, Mr. Speaker, I have found a bit of submissions that have been brought to this House almost not in consonance with Standing Order 80. There seems to be a misunderstanding. Some senators are thinking that when Senate recedes to discuss or investigate this matter, they will be operating as a normal debate. That cannot be further from the truth, Mr. Speaker. And if, Mr. Speaker, the plenary is not good enough, then the special committee is not good enough. So if the plenary is good, if the special committee is good, then the plenary is good enough because the special committee will be drawn from the same body of senators, Mr. Speaker. It's not outsiders coming in here. It's the same group of senators, Mr. Speaker. When it is in the plenary, Mr. Speaker, it gives an opportunity to many more senators to bring in their perspective, raise all the questions, interrogate the matter that is before the House, Mr. Speaker, and it brings a richness that comes from the diversity of the number of senators who will be sitting here. That is why, Mr. Speaker, I stand to oppose that motion and say that both should be treated equally. And what the plenary or the special committee will need to do is observe what is provided for under Article 50 of the Constitution to render a fair process to the governor when she appears here and to those who are complaining against the governor, Mr. Speaker. And for those reasons,
Senator Karen Nyamu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I have listened carefully to my colleagues who are supporting the motion to have this process done in a committee, and I cannot state a single reason. They say no process is better, but the committee is better. Mr. Speaker, barely 1 year since Governor of Meru, Governor Kawira Mwangaza, appeared before the Senate on an impeachment motion. She is back again. And Mr. Speaker, the day that it was ruled in the County Assembly of Meru that the governor had been impeached, headlines were flowing. The conversation was national. And Mr. Speaker, such a matter that has elicited such interest, such national interest, it is proper as a House that we make the decision to have the plenary process because it is more transparent, it is more inclusive. Kenyans want to know what is happening in Meru. And this process is going to give even an integrity to this House because it is going to be open. Nothing is being done behind closed doors. And Mr. Speaker, a motion that Sifuna supports with so much vigor, I cannot be part of. Senator Sifuna, sorry. I must oppose it because for reasons best known to me and my other colleagues who agree with me. So, Mr. Speaker, we have precedents have been set before of successful plenary sessions that executed impeachment processes successfully. Some saved the governor and some sent the governor home. So, Mr. Speaker, let this House rise to the occasion and do what the country is expecting of us. Which is to make this process as open as possible to everyone. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Miraj.
Mbona? Asante mstahiki Bwana Spika, na mimi nasimama kupinga hoja hii na kubaliana na seneta mwenzangu Tabisa ya kwamba sisi kama wanawake tutakuwa wachache katika kutoa mwelekeo wa impeachment hii. Kwa hivyo mimi pia naungana na walio wengi kusema hiyo hoja iletwe hapa tuisikize sote kwa pamoja. Asante.
Senator Gloria.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a staunch defender of women and women's rights, I stand to oppose the motion that has been tabled by Senator Ledama. Mr. Speaker, I've been on record talking about fair hearing. I've been on record talking about transparency, Mr. Speaker. And I believe wherever Governor Kawera is seated and watching and following, I believe that I speak on behalf of her thoughts today, that she wants to come to the public finally to defend and to tell us what is really happening, Mr. Speaker. And plenary offers her that opportunity, Mr. Speaker. As women leaders, we are tired of people insinuating that we are flower girls, insinuating that we are being protected. Let her come to plenary, Mr. Speaker, and defend her leadership and defend what she thinks or she assumes is good governance, Mr. Speaker. Because as women of this country, women leaders, Mr. Speaker, we are tired of being assumed. So, Mr. Speaker, I support that we go for plenary. Number two, Mr. Speaker, I want to say this, that I really want to question, since the last report was tabled of Governor Kawira's impeachment, how many of the 67 senators have actually read that report and can actually tell us that these were the grounds of letting her go? Mr. Speaker, we all know that we trust the committees to do the job and we trust their leadership, Mr. Speaker. And so therefore, when the report is tabled, we trust that the committee has done a good job. But for once, Mr. Speaker, as new senators, we want to interrogate all these questions that are being raised concerning her impeachment, Mr. Speaker. And I stand here, I'm saying this as a staunch defender, a devoted and committed woman leader who really supports women leadership. We would like to see Governor Kawera in plenary so that she can be able to speak on her own behalf and even defend women leaders who are defending her out there. And if she's found guilty, Mr. Speaker, I will be the first one. I'll be the first one to say this woman must go home. And if she's found innocent, Mr. Speaker, I will be the first one again, yet again, as we walked with her down these corridors, to walk with her and show people that women can be given a chance and they can deliver. So I don't think that there's an issue of what we are debating. Let Governor Kawera come to plenary and defend her position. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Sige.
holders are notified to report and surrender unclaimed financial assets to the Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority, UFAA, on or before November 1st, 2023. It is now easier to report and surrender. Visit www.ufaa.go.ke and get started. Beat the November 1st deadline. It is your turn to surrender and report qualifying.
The first time the governor for Meru was impeached, Mr. Speaker, this House gave a chance to the committee. And Mr. Speaker, we know the consequences of that particular impeachment motion. Mr. Speaker, today we have the second impeachment motion. Mr. Speaker, I think it is prudent for this House, this time round, we should be able to allow plenary to deal with this matter, Mr. Speaker, so that we discover, we do the inquiry. And Mr. Speaker, I want to agree with what Senator Nyeri spoke about. We don't think better in special committee than when we're in plenary. In fact, to me, Mr. Speaker, the debate and the discussion in plenary will actually even be more transparent, open. Mr. Speaker, I think it is wrong for anybody to imagine that by having a plenary debate on this impeachment, then we are going to deny the governor a chance, Mr. Speaker, to prove our case. Mr. Speaker, the same standing order 80 is clear that this governor will choose to have a representation by a legal counsel.
Senator Seki. What is the point of order, Senator Sifuna?
With your kind permission, Mr. Speaker, understanding Order 109, I would like to propose that we now call the mover to reply.
Senator Sifuna, go to Standing Order 110.4. I just read it for the benefit of your colleagues and yourself in particular. 109. 1093, in fact. Do you wish to proceed with your point of order? Good. Senator Seki.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I also rise to oppose this motion on the impeachment of Governor Kawera. I want to take this opportunity to say that this Senate, this House, has an opportunity to understand more about the issues of Meru County, rather than going to the committee way. I suggest that and propose that we go the plenary way, because it will give us opportunity to hear for ourselves, to see what is happening in Meru County, and understand more problems that are coming from the governor herself. I want to take this opportunity to say that going the committee way, we tried that, and it is another chance that we also experience this opportunity to go the plenary way. I want to say that, yes, it is true. We have seen this House going through committee ways in different or with different governors that who have been impeached. But I believe that this process of plenary will give us a chance as new senators also to debate and also to give our contribution as delegations of counties to this motion. So I think I do oppose this motion. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Kisang.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as by Standing Order 80, the Senate, we have the two options, either to go to plenary or committee way. I want to speak as the chair of, I was the chair for impeachment motion for deputy governor for Siaya. And during that particular impeachment motion and process, Honorable Speaker, we were able to give both sides, the accusers and the deputy governor, enough time. We sat as a committee through the night looking at all the reports. From my side, Honorable Speaker, I believe the committee way is the best way to go. Honorable Speaker, members have an issue with the 6 members from Kenya Kwanza side who sat December last year when they were presiding over the impeachment motion for Kawira. I believe the reason why they're put there by the leadership of Kenya Kwanza, it's because they want them to bring historical memory. That's the reason why they are there, so that they can help to check if the accusations that have been brought again are the same. Honorable Speaker, it's not that when we have 11 members, the others, Honorable Speaker, when we did that impeachment process, the process was covered live. The people of Meru, the MCS from Meru, they'll be able to see because all the media houses will be there covering live, the same as if we have it at plenary. So by going to committee way, we are not losing anything. If anything, will gain because if the committee finds that there is substantiated allocations, then it will come to the committee. It will come to plenary. There'll be 2 options. I mean, there'll be 2 opportunities for the speaker, for the governor. Honorable Speaker, I support this motion and ask my colleagues, this is a bipartisan motion just to agree on numbers on a committee. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, I support.
Senator Kenywa.
Asante sana, Bwana Speaker.
Eba was given you that permission to stand. Senator Kenywa.
Asante, Bwana Speaker, kwa kunipa fursa hii.
What is your point of order, Senator Mtata?
Order number 109, and ask that the move of the motion be now called upon to reply, because we are now bombing rubble. We are repeating ourselves. There's nothing new being said. So let the mover be called to reply.
Now, Honorable have a seat, Senator Folamu. You can take your seat, please. Now, Honorable Senators, Senator Omtata has read the mood of the House and is seeking for the chair to call the mover to reply. Now, will as many? No. Senator Maruma, take your seat. This is a matter we can dispense with in a minute. Okay? So I will proceed to put the question. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? So the ayes have it. Senator Ledama, proceed to reply.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for this opportunity. I rise to reply. And Mr. Speaker, I've listened to all our colleagues make contributions. And as I reply, Mr. Speaker, there are a few things that I think are important that must be clarified. For particularly that when you make a decision, either way, you know the beauty of debates, Mr. Speaker, is that you either for or against. My job is to persuade you to find it fit to support the motion, but with reason. Debate, when I was in school, I was taught that debate enrich skills. It also challenges you to be able to think outside the box. Mr. Speaker, during the submissions of our colleagues, one of our colleagues have indicated clearly that it is important for the governor to be able to come to this plenary so that she can be able to defend herself and all senators get a chance to cross-examine her. Mr. Speaker, I want to correct that assertion. When we sit as 67 members of the Senate, we'll only sit as a jury. The only thing we can be able to do is to seek clarification. You will rise and say, can you please clarify what you just said? The reason why, Mr. Speaker, I was persuading, and this is why I still want to persuade you, to consider the committee way is because that is the only option you'll have to cross-examine any witness. Sitting here during plenary, Mr. Speaker, will all be juries. In fact, these televisions will be switched off, and then all of us, after the governor and the assembly have made their case, sit down to now consult and talk among each other as juries, 67, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is important that any decision we make as a Senate, we make it when we are fully informed. Mr. Speaker, I want to persuade the new members who have made an argument that they have not been given an opportunity to be able to experience a committee, and they want to be given an opportunity to participate in an impeachment. Mr. Speaker, on our side of the divide, we propose new members. And in fact, out of the 11 members, we have proposed in total, for both sides, 4 women. That is above a third. Mr. Speaker, it is important for us to note that we are discussing about precedents. We are discussing, Mr. Speaker, about procedures, whether committee, whether plenary. If you are sitting there thinking that in plenary, you'll get an opportunity to cross-examine a witness, the news is you will not be able to do that. You'll only be a jury. So those are the issues that we must consider, Mr. Speaker,
order, senators.
as we make our decision.
Senator Boni, and Senator Kisang.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are a new democracy. In fact, now I'm happy that soon we'll be celebrating 60 years of independence. We have chosen a presidential system of governance. In the United States, Mr. Speaker, during an impeachment process, a group of representatives who are referred to as managers prosecute the matters and then submit. Once the charges have been read, they prosecute the matters and then submit a report for us to debate. We are quite far, Mr. Speaker, when it comes to the issue of understanding issues to do with the impeachment process. And I know, Mr. Speaker, and I want to persuade my colleagues that I know that we are sitting here, and in most cases, Mr. Speaker, what drives us is our political affiliation, Mr. Speaker. I want to remind us, and as I persuade you, as I close, Mr. Speaker, I want to persuade you that whatever happens today, remember it will go on record. It is something we will be able to help build this Senate. I know as you sit there, you've made up your mind.
But for the people of Meru, it is important for the people of Meru to know that today we are not prosecuting, we are not debating the issue
Honorable Senator.
of either
Order,
to send the governor away. The only thing we are debating is whether
What is your point of order,
to give
Senator,
it to
for
11
Meru?
members of the Senate to be
What is
able
your
to
point of order,
cross-examine
Senator, for Meru?
witnesses.
Senator Ledama.
Honorable Speaker, it is very unfortunate that I did not get an opportunity also to speak on this particular matter, which is touching on my county. But Mr. Speaker, you know, Honorable Rendama, Senator Rendama, convinced us enough. And I think he is just delivering his points that he gave us. So can you kindly summarize? Can you just summarize and then we make the decision? Yes. Yeah, you just summarize your reply. You don't need to. That is the reason why you could have been given 2 minutes each, because I was on the queue also. It is not fair at all.
Senator Fomeru, indeed, I am aware. Indeed, I'm aware that this matter originates from your home county. However, if you look at our standing orders, the mover has 20 minutes to make a reply. So, Senator Ledama, you are left with 3 of the 20.
Mr. Speaker, I thought I was left with 17 of the 20, but I will respect.
The 3 minutes now. You have
Within
2.
3 minutes, Mr. Speaker, I want to conclude as follows. You know, we can make all the noise. And Mr. Speaker, please.
Order. What is the point of order,
Talk
Senator
to Senator Cherargei.
Cherargei?
Freeze my time.
Mr. Speaker, I needed for future engagement. I'm raising understanding order number 98, number 103, number 47, 48, and number 111. Mr. Speaker, I need your interpretation. When a motion is limited after you have put the open for the debate, does it mean that the mover, when they are replying, are also limited to 3 minutes? My interpretation and the upshot in such, so that we don't go to conundrum, Mr. Speaker, is to have the mover to reply, to restrain themselves to 3 minutes, because that is the import of standing order number 111. So is it in order, Mr. Speaker, to request you kindly, understanding what number 1 and the import of standing order 111, to call the mover, Mr. Speaker, to just finish under 3 minutes, just like any Mr. Speaker, because it is like animal farm. It's not like animal farm where, Mr.
Senator
Speaker.
Fernandi, had you not shut up on a point of order, Senator Ledama, I said he had 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you for the guidance. I just needed that clarity. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, you know, my dear brother from Nandi love to hear the sound of his
Senator
voice.
Ledama.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Just proceed to
All right.
conclude.
Let me conclude in 2 minutes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, I want to conclude from number 1, that it is important for us to know the facts of either committee or plenary. During committee, our distinguished 11 senators will get a chance to retreat, to go and write a well-thought-out report and come back here to be able to persuade us either to send the governor home or to save the governor. During plenary, Mr. Speaker, this will only take 2 days. There's no time to go and retreat. And looking at the calendar, Mr. Speaker, it is quite evident that maybe we'll have only the 7th and the 8th, and that's done. So, Mr. Speaker, as we leave this house today, and as my colleagues from both sides of the aisle make their determination on whether to go plenary or committee, remember that impeachment is a very painful process that I would never wish for anybody. So I plead with you to support
order members.
My brother from Meru, I have a lot of tremendous respect, Mr. Speaker, for the Deputy Speaker. But the Deputy Speaker, being the Deputy Speaker, sits in that seat, knows the rules of debate. The issue here is this: let us not make it a shouting matter. I am trying to convince you, if we bring Narok here, I'll be sitting here, you will tell me the same thing. So, Mr. Speaker, I beg to reply and I request you to support.
Thank you. Now, honorable senators, as you may notice, this is a procedural motion. It does not go to the substance of the subject of impeachment. It is a procedural motion. And therefore, pursuant to Standing Order 84-1, I will proceed to make my determination, which is it does not affect the counties, being a procedural motion. Senator Eddy, I will throw you out. And therefore, I will proceed now to put the question. At the end of the question, voting shall be by voice. Honorable senators, and I put the question. Senator Karen Nyamu, kindly walk in and take your seat. That whereas pursuant to Article 181 of the Constitution and Section 33 of the County Governments Act, on Wednesday, 25th of October, 2023, the Meru County Assembly, order members. How will you vote if you won't hear the question? Or what are you going to vote on if you cannot be still to hear the question? Order members. That whereas pursuant to Article 181 of the Constitution and Section 33 of the County Governments Act, on Wednesday, 25th October 2023, the Meru County Assembly approved a motion to remove from office by impeachment the Honorable Kawira Mwangaza, the Governor of Meru County. And further, whereas by a letter reference M/Cares Volume 4/43, dated 26th of October 2023, and received in the office of the Speaker of the Senate on Friday, 27 October 2023, the Speaker of Meru County Assembly, Senator Chirange, informed the Speaker of the Senate of the approval of the motion by County Assembly and further forwarded to the Speaker of the Senate documents in evidence of the proceedings of the Assembly. And whereas pursuant to Section 33(3)(b) of the County Government Act and Standing Order 81B of the Senate by resolution may appoint a special committee comprising 11 of its members to investigate the matter. Now, therefore, pursuant to Section 33(3)(b) of the County Governments Act and Standing Order 81B, the Senate resolves to establish a special committee comprising the following senators: Senator Dr. Boni Kalwale, CBS MP; Senator Jackson Mandago, EGH MP; Senator Karungo Tangwa MP; Senator Esther Okenyuri MP; Senator Ali Roba, EGH MP; Senator Peris Tobiko, CBS MP; Senator Enoch Wambua, CBS MP; Senator Abdul Haji MP; Senator Okoeti Omtata MP; Senator Crystal Asige MP; and Senator Shakila Abdallah MP to investigate the proposed removal from office of the Governor of Meru County, and pursuant to Standing Order 82, to report to the Senate within 10 days of its appointment on whether or not it finds the particulars of the allegations against the governor to have been substantiated. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many of the contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The nays have it.
Honorable senators, order, order. If you're standing, you'll be counted with this side. Order. Order. Pardon? Order, order, honorable senators. Senator Boni. Now, before I allow the clerk to count, I'm giving you a second either to stand or to sit because we're going to proceed to count. Order, Senator Ledama. Senator Ledama, you stand and keep quiet. You're not conducting a no. So, now, honorable senators, the clerk has proceeded to count the senators standing. You are 14, and therefore is defeated. Thank you. Matthew had been. Clerk, proceed to call the next order, please. We go to this, sir. Order, order, honorable senators. Order. Clerk, proceed to call the next order, please.
Order number 8, the Sugar Bill, National Assembly Bills number 34 of 2023, second reading. A bill for an act of parliament to provide for the development, regulation, and promotion of the sugar industry, to provide for the establishment, powers, and functions of the Kenya Sugar Board, and for connected purposes.
Now, honorable senators, kindly take your seat. For those who are not willing to continue after that vote, please, you can wait your colleagues in the lounge, but don't disrupt the proceedings of the House. We need to proceed. Now, pursuant to Standing Order 45-2, I will again further rearrange the sequence of today's order paper. And Senator Fomeru, kindly take your seat. If you look at today's order paper, order number 19 and 20, these are orders that have been appearing in our order paper for the last 3 months, if not more. These are procedural matters that we can dispense with at this moment, and then we can revert to the original flow of today's order paper. So I will rearrange the business. We proceed to prosecute order number 19 and 20 before resuming the normal flow of today's business. Clerk, proceed to call the order.
Order number 19, motion, report of the 146th Assembly of the Interparliamentary Union, IPU, and related meetings held in Manama, Kingdom of Bahrain from 11th to 15th March 2023.
Senator Kathuri, proceed. Well, this motion is by the Senator Fomeru. The report on the 147th Assembly of the Interparliamentary, the report on the Manama
Honorable
IPU
Speaker,
report.
Honorable Speaker, no, wait, please give me time. Honorable
If you're
Speaker,
not ready, Senator.
I was not ready, and my mind also is not, there's no that temperament to prosecute that motion, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Proceed to call order 20.
Order number 20, motion, report of the Senate delegation to the 67th session of the Commission on the Status of Women, CSW 67, held in New York from 6th to 17th March 2023.
Senator Fatuma Dulo. Yes, you can do that. Bana we.
How long will you take for a few minutes? Honorable Speaker, this is the report of the Senate delegation to the 16th session of the Commission on the Status of Women, CSW 67. Honorable Speaker, I was honored to be part of the delegation that proceeded to CSW meeting in New York, and I will now present the report. The United Nations Commission on the Status of Women, CSW, is the principal global intergovernmental body exclusively dedicated to the promotion of gender equality and the empowerment of women.
Senator Veronica, please approach the speaker.
Honorable Speaker, I move the motion that the Senate notes the report of the Senate delegation to the 67th session of the Commission on the Status of Women, CSW, held in New York from 6th to 17th March 2023, laid on the table of the Senate on Thursday, 29th June 2023. Honorable Speaker, I will now go to the report. Honorable Speaker, the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women, CSW, is a principal global intergovernmental body exclusively dedicated to the promotion of gender equality and the empowerment of women. This is a functional commission of the Economic and Social Council, ECOSOC, which was established in June 1946. The CSW is instrumental in promoting women's rights, documenting the reality of women's lives throughout the world, and shaping global standards on gender equality and the empowerment of women. The Commission holds a 2-week annual event where representatives of the UN member states, civil society groups, non-governmental organizations, the NGOs, the media, and other UN entities converge at the UN headquarters in consultative status with ECOSOC to discuss priority themes critical to the well-being of women around the globe. The 67th session of the Commission on the Status of Women took place at the United Nations headquarters in New York from 6th to 17th March 2023. The theme of the session was Innovation and Technological Change and Education in Digital Age for Achieving Gender Equality and the Empowerment of all women and girls. In the first fully in-person session following 3 years of the COVID-19 pandemic, CSW 67 registered attendance from 181 member states with more than 7,000 participants, including 4 heads of states and government and 116 ministers, 205 side events on UN premises, and about 700 NGO parallel events. For the first time, the session included an interactive youth session with young people, youth representative of delegations, civil society, and United Nations organizations engaging in dialogue and providing recommendation on how to ensure young women and girls are part of the digital transformation. The Commission also benefited from important contribution from a wide range of civil society organizations, including the leaders and commitment makers of the Action Coalition on Technology and Innovation for Gender Equality, launched as part of the Generation Equality Forum. The Action Coalition on Technology and Innovation for the Gender Equality has made a significant contribution in cementing alliances between governments, private sector, civil
society and the UN system, and in driving momentum and commitment to advance gender equality through technology and innovation. The Senate delegation to the 67th session of the Commission on the Status of Women comprised the following: Senator Fatuma Adan Dulo, CBS MP, who was leader of delegation; myself, Senator Veronica Maina, MP; Senator Betty Montet, MP; Senator George Mungai Bugwa, MP; Ms. Michelle Bibi Fondo, Deputy Director, Speaker's Office; Ms. Josephine Kusinyi, Principal Legal Counsel, Secretary to the delegation. On behalf of the delegation, I wish to thank the offices of the Speaker and the Clerk of Senate for the support extended to ensure participation of the delegation in the event. It is my pleasure and humble duty to submit the report of the Senate delegation to the 67th session of the Commission on the Status of Women to the Senate for noting and action where necessary. The Commission on the Status of Women, CSW, first met at Lake Success, New York in February 1947, soon after the founding of the United Nations. From its inception, the Commission was supported by a unit of the United Nations that later became the Division for the Advancement of Women in the UN Secretariat. The CSW forged a close relationship with non-governmental organizations, with those in consultative status with the UN Economic and Social Council, ECOSOC, invited to participate as observers. From 1947 to 1962, the Commission focused on setting standards and formulating international conventions to change discriminatory legislation and foster global awareness of women issues. Since the codification of the legal rights of women needed to be supported by data and analysis, the Commission embarked on a global assessment of the status of women. Extensive research produced a detailed country-by-country picture of their politics and legal standing, which over time became a basis for drafting human rights instruments. In 1963, efforts to consolidate standards on women's rights led the UN General Assembly to request the Commission to draft a declaration on the elimination of discrimination against women, which the Assembly ultimately adopted in 1967. As evidence began to accumulate in the 1960s that women were disproportionately affected by poverty, the work of the Commission centered on women's needs in community and rural development, agricultural work, family planning, and scientific and technological advances. The Commission encouraged the UN system to expand its technical assistance to further the advancement of women, especially in developing countries. In 1972, to mark its 25th anniversary, the Commission recommended
Tunaingia vijijini, mijini na hata jijini kukuletea taarifa mchana kutwa. Usiku tunaketi kitako, tunadadavua tukichanganua taarifa na makala muhimu yanayokuhusu wewe na familia yako. Ungana na Bernard Ngozi kwenye Open Forum Political Show kuanzia saa 4 usiku hadi dakika zake kila siku ya wiki kwenye Sound Candy Talk. Tukutane Sound Candy Talk.